Okay. Good morning, everyone. So, as we discussed in the last class, we have already started the discussion of inheritance. Is one of the very important feature in object-oriented programming language like C++, and which is also a part of the pi principle. Okay, polymorphism, inheritance, and encapsulation principle, pi principle. So, inheritance play a vital role to represents the actual behavior of object-oriented programming languages like C++. So in the last class, we have already discussed about the basics of inheritance. We have discussed about the applications or the benefits of using inheritance in terms of reusability of code. Then we have discussed about the various types of inheritance, single inheritance, multiple inheritance, multi-level inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, and hybrid inheritance. Okay, and then I have shown you a basic coding of a single inheritance in a public mode, and another coding I have shown a single inheritance in private mode. Okay, so two type of inheritance program I have shown in the last class. If you remember, one is the when the base class is inherited in public mode, and another one is when a base class is inherited in private mode. These two kind of conception I have given in the last class. I hope that the programming conception which we have discussed in the last class is clear to you, clear to everyone. Okay. So today my main objective is to discuss about the inheritance capability of a base class in terms of protected mode. Okay, there are three kind of access specifier. All of you know that in C++ there provide three kind of access specifier or visibility modifier, whatever you say. One is public access modifier, another one is private, and the third one is protected. Okay, so my first objective of today is to discuss about the single inheritance to inherit a base class in protected mode or protected visibility modifier. Okay, the second objective is to discuss about the other types of inheritance concepts like multi-level inheritance, multiple inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, and hybrid inheritance to show individual programs regarding those individual concepts. Okay, so that are our aim. That is our aim of today's discussions. Okay, or objective of today's discussion. So let me share the screen first. Everyone, please be ready with your pen and paper. I think the screen is visible to everyone. Before discussing the programming concepts of protected members, how to access protected members in inheritable mode, that before discussing that concept, I would like to tell you some important points or some important notes regarding this protected member accessing in inheritance. Okay, so everyone note it down. C++ provides protected access specifier. C++ provides protected access specifier. C++ provides protected access specifier which serve a limited purpose in inheritance. Full stop. A member declared as protected is accessible. A member declared as C++ provides, I'm repeating again, C++ provides a access specifier protected which serve a limited purpose in inheritance. Full stop. A member declared as protected, is accessible by the member function within its class, and any class immediately derived from it. Full stop. I repeat the statement again. A member declared as protected is accessible by the member functions within its class and any class immediately derived from it. Has everyone noted it down?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Continue. It cannot be accessed by the functions outside these two classes. It cannot be accessed by the functions outside these two classes. Outside these two classes. Full stop. When a protected member is inherited in public mode, when a protected member is inherited in public mode, comma, when a protected member is inherited in a public mode, comma, it becomes protected in the derived class 2, TOO. It becomes protected in the derived class 2, TOO. And therefore is accessible by the member functions of the derived class, and therefore is accessible by the member functions of the derived class. Full stop. It is also ready for further inheritance. It is also ready for further inheritance. Full stop. Has everyone noted it down?
Sir, can you repeat the last line?
Yes, sir, last line.
Last line. It is also ready for further inheritance. It is also ready for further inheritance. Full stop. Continue. A protected member inherited in the private mode comma, a protected member inherited in the private mode, comma, becomes private in the derived class. Becomes private in the derived class. Full stop. Although it is available to the member functions, although it is available to the member functions of the derived class. Although it is available to the member functions of the derived class, comma, it is not available for further inheritance. It is not available for further inheritance. Full stop. Last statement regarding this protected. It is also possible to inherit a base class in protected mode. It is also possible to inherit a base class in protected mode. I repeat again, it is also possible to inherit a base class in protected mode. Full stop. In protected derivation, comma, both the public and protected members, both the public and protected members of the base class become protected members of the derived class become protected members of the derived class. So everyone read this note, these small portions. Everyone read it once. Everyone read it once. Try to understand. While you are reading it, try to understand.
স্যার অলদোর আগের স্টেটমেন্টটা একটু বলবেন?
Although, কোথায় although লেখা আছে?
Although it is available to member function of the derived classes.
তার আগেরটা, a protected member inherited in the private mode derivation. A protected member inherited in the private mode becomes private in the derived class. Becomes private in the derived class.
স্যার এই জায়গাটা বলবেন and therefore is accessible by the
And therefore কোন জায়গাটা বলো?
is when a protected member is inherited in a public mode, it becomes protected in the derived class to তারপরে and therefore is accessible by the
Next second.
By the member
therefore is
function of
accessible by
derived
the
class.
member functions of the derived class. It is also ready for further inheritance. তারপরের line. It is also ready for further inheritance. So everyone read it once. Read it very carefully, minutely. Read it once. So in this note, you have seen that I have discussed or I have told couple of variations of protected inheritance, right? Here in the code which is showing right now to you, in that code I am showing only one kind of variation. Okay, the rest of the variation you will practice at your home. I will leave for you. So what is this code represents? So in the last class we have already seen the single inheritance. So I have shown this conception of protected in single inheritance because it is easy for you to understand, because single inheritance is a less complex concept compared to other kind of inheritance, right? So that's why the private mode, protected mode, this kind of access specified inheritance I am trying to show in single inheritance mode instead of other mode. Okay, but in examination we can give questions that you can use protected or private in other mode as well. Okay, other type of inheritance as well. So here I have defined first a base class whose name I have given base for easy to understanding. Then I have defined declared and defined a variable val in private mode. Okay, as all of we know that private cannot be inherited, right? In the previous class we have seen that private cannot be inherited directly. We can inherit the private. What is the way of inheriting a private variable? In the last class I have shown what is the way of inheriting a private variable.
Through public member.
Yes, through public member of that class, through public member functions of that class. Okay, it may be a private variable, it may be a private member method, doesn't matter. We can use that private member method or private variable by passing it through a public function of the same class. Okay, now here I have defined protected members. Two protected members I have defined. One is a member variable pro, whose value I have given initialized as 60, and one is a simple member method whose name is pro method. Okay, and in that method I have just print a statement that is a protected class visibility modifier of the base class, right? Now in the same class I have defined two public members as well. So you can understand in this base class I have defined all three kinds of members, or all three kind of access specifiers, or all three kind of visibility modifiers, whatever you say. First one is the private variable, next one are the protected variables or protected members, and the last one are the public members. And public members are always ready for inheritance, right? Now how the protected member can be inherited, that is the question. Now in this function I have just given the body of the public member which I have declared inside the class, okay, by using a scope resolution operator. And then this is a derived class. Look at this class very carefully. This is a derived class which will extend or inherit the base class, which has been inherited the base class base, right? Now within this derived class I have defined a number of public members: display function, fact function, and a f variable which initialization of 1, because it will require for the factorial calculation, right? A simple calculation I have given, and I have defined this display function at the outside mode. Now within this display function, look, I have passed that protected member. Within this display function I have passed that protected member. So here you can understand, while I have defined any member as a protected in a base class, and if I want to access it in its derived class, then I have to use the public method of the derived class to pass the protected method. So here the protected method is pro method, which I have called within the derived class public function definition display. Within the derived class public function definition display. So here in that look at this statement which I have given. When a protected member is inherited in public mode, it becomes protected in the derived class too, and therefore is accessible by the member function of the derived class. And that thing is represented here. The protected member is accessible by the member function of the derived class, because while you are inherit this base class which has these two kind of protected members, this derived class also contains these two members in the same mode, that means in the protected mode, right? So it is also ready for further inheritance. So further inheritance is also possible in this kind of protected mode. And in the first 2 or 3 statements I have defined that a member declared as protected is accessible by the member function within its class, right? And any class immediately derived from it. So protected member can be accessible by any class immediately derived from it. So which class is immediately derived from the base class? That is derived class. So can we access the protected member directly within this class? Let's check it out. So within this public, I have simply trying to access the protected member. Which one is protected member here? Suppose this pro is a member variable, so I'm trying to access it, right? This pro, I am trying to access it. How can I access it? By simply create the object of this derived class. How we can create the object of the derived class? We can create the object of the derived class here. But whether it is possible to access the protected member of its base class, so ob.pro, can we do that? Let's check it out. ob.pro, so obviously we have to give a cout statement here, and here we will print a protected variable for the understanding that it is a execution of a protected variable which will be accessed by the object of the derived class. So let's check it out. Look, so derived class object is not capable to access the protected member directly, right? So how we can access the protected member? So we can access the protected member. Can we access the protected member within the public function of the derived class? Let's check it out. Can we access the protected member within the public function of the derived class? Let's check it out whether it is possible or not. So within the fact public function of the derived class, we are trying to access the protected member. So here we don't record object, we will directly print the value, probe. So whether it is possible or not. Okay, so it is possible to print the protected member value within a public member. So it is very much similarly working like a private member. Okay, it is very much similarly working like a private member. So this protected member is accessible by the member function within its class and any class immediately derived from it. Okay, so it cannot be accessed by function outside these two classes. So outside these two classes, it is not possible to accessible this protected member. So let's check it out. Suppose we will derive one more class derived 2, suppose, and in that derived 2 class we have extended or inherit the previous derived class, in such a way. Suppose in public mode I have extended, so no confusion is there, and within this class we have defined a public function, a public access specifier. Within that we have defined a public function, suppose void print. So within this function, is it possible to access a protected member? Let's check it out. So obviously the protected member concept is coming to this class automatically. Why? Because derived class inherits the base class here, and this derived 2 class inherits the previous derived class. So can anyone tell me what kind of inheritance I am applying here? What type of inheritance I am applying here? After adding this class derived 2, what kind of inheritance I am trying to implement here? There are 5 types.
Single.
Multi-level.
Multi-level, very good. Multi-level. If you remember, what was the multi-level inheritance? Look, multi-level. This is the multi-level base class, accessed by a derived class or inherited by a derived class 1, and this derived class 1 is again inherited by derived class 2, and so on. So here base class is this one. It is inherited by a derived class 1. This is derived class 1, and it is also inherited by that derived class is also inherited by a derived class 2. So it is a multi-level inheritance. More than one inheritance exists. Okay, one after another. So derived from derived class. Inheritance, multi-level inheritance is stated by the help of a single statement, like derived from a derived class. Why it is called derived from a derived class? Because we have defined a derived class from another derived class. So that's why it is derived from a derived class. Sometimes it's called that. So we'll check whether it is accessible, whether the protected variable is accessible within the third class of inheritance or not. Okay. Sorry, the class semicolon should be ended here. So here actually I didn't call it, so it will not execute. Why it is not execute? Because I will have to create the object, right? So here I will have to first create the object of this derived 2 class, derived 2, right? What was the object of derived 2? So instead of derived class, I am going to create an object of derived 2, right? Instead of derived class, I am going to create an object of derived 2. Why? Because derived 2 now has all the properties of its previous parent classes. It's parent and parent to parent, that means grandparent classes, that means base class and derived class. It has all the properties, including the protected member, public members, private member, whatever it has. So I am creating OB, right? And here I am trying to, so this OB means I am trying to access the print method, so OB.print. So whether it is accessible or not, let's check it out. So it is accessible, right? So it is accessible. So protected variable is accessible from derived to derived classes. From derived to derived classes. So where the protected variable is defined at the first class, that means at the base class, this one, and it is accessible by its derived class as well as derived to derived class. That means grandchild class. It is also accessible at the grandchild class. This one. Clear? Is it clear how the protected is accessible in different classes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we will go for the next kind of inheritance, which I have already shown to you in the previous program, that is multi-level. Okay. So those who forget, this is a multi-level inheritance where one class is derived from another derived class. Okay. So in this bird example, where the multi-level exists from bird to sparrow, sparrow to crow, or from bird to penguin, penguin to crow, or from bird to ostrich and ostrich to crow. So in these three cases, the multi-level inheritance exists. Okay. So here I have defined a simple a base class for showing a multi-level inheritance, where I have defined these two methods, two variables or two members, then derive one which will extend the base class or which will inherit the base class and define its own members, and then derive two which will inherit the previous derived class derive one and also define its own set of members. Okay, and then we have created an object of the last class, that is derived two class, which will, by the help of that object, we are able to access all the methods of its previous classes. So from here we can get the advantage that we don't need to create object for individual classes. So from memory efficiency we will get an advantage, because each an object will occupy some memory. So here one object will be created and that will be enough power to access the member of all its inherited classes, and that is the power of inheritance or reusability of the code. So here where the reusability concept is applicable, in each and every under each and every derived classes, you don't need to again define the members of its previous classes. While you are inheriting that class, it is automatically this members is inherited inside this derived class or virtually defined inside this derived class. But if you are not applying an inheritance concept here, and if you are going to access these methods from this second class, then you will have to define all these members again inside the inside this derived one class along with its own members. So multiple times you have to define the same members again and again in its upcoming classes. So that is a concept of reusability of code. So if we run this one, so it will, we'll have to enter the value of x, y, z, and then we'll get a product value of 70,000 by xyz. Okay. Now the multiple inheritance. What is multiple inheritance? Let's check it out again. Those who forget about multiple, this is a multiple inheritance. So in multiple inheritance, in this situation, there must be more than one, at least more than one base class or parent class, and only one derived class, and only one derived class. That means one derived class can inherit multiple base classes. So there is only one child class and multiple parent class. That is an example of multiple inheritance. Okay. So in this example where the multiple inheritance exists, in this situation the multiple inheritance exists. Where the crow class, there is only one derived class or child class, that is crow, which will inherit the property of its parent class sparrow, another parent class penguin, and the third parent class ostrich. Okay, so crow has all these three properties of its previous three parent classes. Right, so this is a multiple inheritance. So Java does not support multiple inheritance directly. I have already told you that thing. Java can support multiple inheritance with the help of interface only. Okay, but there is no concept of interface in C++. So C++ support multiple inheritance directly. So that's why there is no concept of interface in C++. So while you will learn Java, you will have the concept of interface and how interface helps to overcome the problem of accessing directly the multiple inheritance in Java, that you will learn. Okay. So here we will check multiple inheritance. So here I have defined class A, where I have defined two methods. Okay. Then again class B, I have defined again some members. So look here very carefully. Class A and class B, these two are the two separate classes. So this class B does not inherit class A. Try to understand the code very carefully. This class B does not inherit the class A, right? So class A is independent from class B. So we can consider this is as a base class and this one is another base class. Okay, this one is one base class and this one is another base class. So for sake of simplicity, I can write it as base 1 and this one is base 2. So your conception will be clear. So there can be multiple base classes, at least two base class, and at most there can be any number of base classes in multiple inheritance. But there is only one child class. So class C is your child class. So this should be a base 1 and this should be a base 2. So this is a way of how multiple inheritance working. This is the line where the multiple inheritance exists. Try to understand this line. Class C is a child class, inherit operator, a single colon, then it will inherit two base classes separated by comma. So public base class 1, comma, public base class 2. Public base class 1, comma, public base class 2. Right? And then this one, this member void sum is its own member of the child class, unique member of the child class. So while child class C inherit both the base classes by the help of this statement, base 1 and base 2, after inheriting this, automatically all these codes are virtually copy paste inside this class C. That is a role of inheritance or the role of code reusability. We are going to reuse the same code of its previous two base classes inside the child class, along with its own unique member function or along its own unique members, like void sum. So in the main method, we have created an object obj1 for the child class C, and that object is enough powerful to access all the methods of the child class as well as its immediate two base classes. If we run this code, x10 y20, and it will give you the summation results 30. So x is taken from base class 1, y is taken from base class 2, and in the child class C we are performing the summation, and that will be printed at a child class C. Anyone has any confusion, any doubt? Tell me. Is it clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
What about the others? Anyone has any doubt? Multiple inheritance is clear to everyone how we can declare it. This thing is new here. Anyone has any kind of doubt? Is it clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Now, hierarchical inheritance. Let's check it out. What was hierarchical inheritance? Hierarchical inheritance, just opposite of multiple inheritance. It is just opposite. You just inverted this diagram and then it becomes a hierarchical inheritance. So inversion means there will be only one base class and multiple derived classes. There will be one base class, only one base class, and multiple, that means at least two derived class or more than two derived class. That is a hierarchical inheritance. Now, how we can implement hierarchical inheritance in terms of coding? Let's check it out. This is a class A, this is a class B. Right now, all of you are aware about the A and B. Okay, these are the two base classes. Look this thing very carefully. So in hierarchical inheritance, if you see this derived class 1 inherit the first base class, so it should be derived 1 colon base class, and then again derived 2 colon base class, again derived 3 colon base class. So all these derived classes is capable of inheriting its corresponding base class or its own base, all these derived class is capable enough to inherit this common base class. Okay, the same thing is applicable here. So which one is the common base class in this code? Class A is a common base class in this code, and this is a single base class. Obviously, in hierarchical clustering, in hierarchical inheritance, so it should be always a single base class, right? And multiple derived classes. So what are the derived classes here? These are the two derived classes. Class B is the first derived class. Class C is the second derived class. So at least two derived class must be there. At most any number of derived class can be there. Okay. So first class B inherit public A, and class C inherit the same base class public A in two modes. Okay. And then while we are accessing, now that is the main question, while we are accessing the methods of the base class A, is it possible to access all the methods by creating a single object? What do you say?
No, sir.
Is it possible to access
No.
all the member methods of all these three classes by creating a single object? So if you say that you are going to create a single object of B class, then you are only allowed to access A class member and B class member. You are not allowed to access C class member. Why? Because there is no conception of B class within this C class. Again, if you are asking, sir, if you are going to create an object of C class, then what will happen? Then you are allowed to access the member of the C class and the A class, not the B class. So that's why here in hierarchical inheritance, it is the only one inheritance where we are going to create different objects for these different derived classes. So we have to create object 1 for the class B, the first derived class, and then object 2 for the class C, the second derived class. So these things we have created here. Object 1 for the first derived class B, and object 2 for the second derived class C. And then by the help of object 1, you are able to access both the members of B class and A class. And similarly, by the help of object 2, you are allowed to access both the members of C class and A class. Okay, so if we run this code, the same sum function, okay, sum multiplication like this. So enter the value of x and y. So x and y is 10 and 20. So B class will do multiplication for you, and C class will do addition for you. So this is a B class multiplication, 200. Now for the C class, we are giving the same value, and C class will do addition for you, that is 30. 10 plus 20, 30. So that operation is applicable for C class and B class respectively. And A class is used to take the inputs of X and Y. Is it clear to everyone? Anyone has any doubt, any confusion? Any doubt, any kind of confusion?
No, sir.
What about the others? Is it clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So do you understand how the inheritance is actually working in C++? It is very important to understand these things. How the inheritance is playing the role. Now you can say, sir, which kind of inheritance we are going to use in our code, in our project, if we will do a project. So that is totally your choice. Which kind of inheritance you think is you are comfortable to use, or you are getting some advantage by using that kind of inheritance, you can use. Not only that, you can use a mixture of the inheritance, a mixture of all these inheritance, which is also called a hybrid inheritance, right? So our next code is a hybrid inheritance. So what was the hybrid inheritance? The hybrid inheritance is nothing but a mixture of all these four inheritance. So this entire diagram will represent a hybrid inheritance. In this diagram, we have a single inheritance, we have a multi-level inheritance, we have a multiple inheritance, and we have a hierarchical inheritance. Okay, all these four kind of inheritance exist together. It's called hybrid inheritance. That means at least more than one inheritance, then we can call as hybrid inheritance. Okay, you don't require all the four inheritance. At least more than one inheritance, you can call a hybrid inheritance. But as a definition, it is told as that if all the four inheritance exist in a single scenario or single situation, then we can call it as a hybrid inheritance. So let's check it out how we can implement the hybrid inheritance here. Very simple. Class A is a first base class. Class B extend class A. Class C is another independent class, or you can say the base class. Class D, here it is multiple inheritance is applicable. Here single inheritance is applicable. Here multiple inheritance is applicable. Multiple means one class, derived class D, extend base class B and another base class C. Okay. So D extend base class B, another base class C. Right. So this is the multiple inheritance. So is there any hierarchical inheritance exist or multi-level? So there is one multi-level inheritance exists. Can anyone tell me where the multi-level inheritance exists? There is no hierarchical, but one multi-level inheritance exists. Can anyone tell me in this code where the multi-level inheritance exists?
Yes, sir. Class B, Class C, and Class D.
Class B, Class C, and Class D. Multi-level. No, it is not multi-level. Multi-level means what? It is multiple. This is multiple. Multiple inheritance. Multi-level means what? A implies B, B implies C. Means derived from derived class. Understood? That is multi-level. So can anyone tell me where the multi-level? Look at the code very carefully. Look at this statement very carefully. In this statement, the multi-level is hiding. The concept of multi-level is hiding. Among which three classes the multi-level inheritance exists in this code?
A, B, and D.
Yes,
ABD.
very good. ABD, very good. Who is this? What is the name?
Auditro.
Auditro, very good. Look at this thing very carefully. Class D colon public B comma public C. So this is a multiple inheritance. There is no doubt about it. All of you understand these things. And if you check these things again, class D inherit which class? Class B. So class B is the base class of class D in this statement. Only this first two statements, right? Now, when class B is there, now class B is inherit which class? Class A. So A implies B and B implies D. Can you say that? Can we say that?
Yes, sir.
A implies B, then can we say B implies D? So there is a multi-level inheritance exists. I think there is no hierarchical inheritance. I think there is no hierarchical inheritance. If anyone, do you find any hierarchical inheritance here? I didn't find it. So no problem, no problem. If more than one inheritance, that means it is hybrid. Okay, there is no hard and first rule that you will have to apply all the four kind of inheritance. Okay, if there is more than one inheritance, then we can call it as a hybrid inheritance. Okay, so in the main method, we can call the object, or we can create the object of the D class only, and the D class object will be enough to call the sum function, because the rest of the function don't need to call because it already defined a compiled and definition of all these variables. Okay, so if we run this code, it will do the sum operation. So give a sum equal to 14. So we will check. So it will get first value 10, second value 4, then 10 plus 4 equal to 14. Is it clear to everyone? Tell me, anyone has any doubt in this code? All these four kind of four type of inheritance is clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
So everyone, please practice it. In the next class, we are going to cover two more topics related to inheritance. One is virtual base class. That is also very important. How we can access virtual base class, and another one is ambiguity in inheritance. There may be possibility some kind of ambiguity, and how we can resolve that ambiguity in inheritance. And at the last, we can discuss about how we can handle the constructor issues in derived classes. Abstract class is also there, but in C++, abstract class is not playing a very major role. But I will just define the abstract class to you in respect of C++. But in Java, abstract class plays a very, very important role. Okay, while you will learn Java, you will learn how abstract class play a very vital role in Java. So there are 2 or 3 more topics left in this inheritance chapter, and I will tell you up to this inheritance chapter, your midterm question will be given. Okay, your midterm syllabus is up to this inheritance chapter. Okay, that means up to the completion, the end of this inheritance chapter, starting from the first chapter, that will be your midterm syllabus. So after the inheritance, whatever I'm going to teach you before the midterm, that will be not part of the midterm syllabus. Okay, I will explicitly mention the syllabus again in your WhatsApp group before the midterm. Okay, I'm just verbally telling to you up to this inheritance chapter will be your midterm syllabus. Clear to you? Is it clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.